This is a reflection on the Nichomachean Ethics by Aristotle, Book 10, Part 7. He writes, "If happiness is activity in accordance with virtue, it is reasonable that it should be in accordance with the highest virtue." So, this seems to indicate that happiness is a journey to what is highest. For it would seem to be not the case that one can be truly happy if one is in a state where one knows there's a higher state that contains something greater, something more real. It would not seem to be possible that one could be happy in such a state when one knows there is something more real than what I'm experiencing right now. He continues, whether it be reason or something else that is this element which is thought to be our natural ruler and guide. So Aristotle does think that it is reason, and it seems significant that he regards reason as our natural ruler and guide. If reason is our natural ruler, that means that reason dominates the practical course of our life. It would seem to be the case then that one must make sure that one is reasoning properly and that one is using reason consciously and not letting unconscious elements in the mind be the dominating factors for how we live. If reason is our natural ruler, then it seems to be of paramount importance that reason is formed in a wholesome and comprehensive way. He also says that reason is our guide. So this means that in addition to leading our lives or directing our lives, or we might say expanding on what that means, during the course of activities, reason is guiding the activities. Reason is what there is deference to when there is a kind of doubt or a choice to be made. Indeed, this seems to point to the grave importance of reason, that we face so many choices in life, and our choices form an important part of our experience, how our lives turn out, how efficiently our time is used. And so, if reason is formed in such a way that it is sharp and full of depth, then our choices will be better, and the paths in our lives will produce more fruit for us. Aristotle continues that reason takes thought of things noble and divine. This would also seem to point to the conclusion that reason has grave importance because what is noble and divine is what contains the most reality and offers the best prospect for attaining happiness. And so reason is that by which we can attain to the noble and the divine. By the divine, it seems appropriate to note that probably in the Greek context, divine just means something utterly sublime. It need not take on the loaded signification that might be concomitant with some religious contexts, some unpalatable significations. So what is noble and what is divine, that is, what is self-evidently attractive in the deepest way, is attained through reason. Aristotle again continues, the activity of this, that is reason, in accordance with its proper virtue, will be perfect happiness. That this activity is contemplative, we have already said. So then, the contemplative activity of reason constitutes, Aristotle offers, our happiness. Now, I believe this would make more sense, or rather, the truth of this statement would expand in clarity if we added that our nature itself, or our soul, is of the nature of reason. Reason, its etymology, I believe, means to think or to intuit. Reri, the Latin word reri. So it just means a kind of act of consciousness, it would seem. And so if reason is that which is deepest in us, that which is most constitutive of our essence, that would seem to point to a conclusion about the nature of human beings, that is, the nature of what a human being is, essentially. That is, a human being on this line of thought would be something like conscious intelligence, or of the nature of intelligence or consciousness, and that this itself would be the soul of a person. And this might explain or offer an account for why reason operated in a correct way, in a contemplative way, constitutes the greatest happiness, because in the activity of reason we're accessing the deepest parts of who we are. And it also seems significant that the objects of reason are said to be mathematics and things that are universal. And so, if the objects of reason are also not apart from the fabric of intelligence, it means that our souls contain both the perceiving and the objects perceived. That is, if we begin from the premise that our souls are of the nature of intelligence or consciousness, then it follows that this consciousness, since it must be the substratum, it would seem, for objects such as mathematics, which are universal, is also universal. In other words, if mathematics appears in our consciousness, or rather, removing the pronoun, if mathematics appears in consciousness, and what is known as the human soul is just consciousness, it means that the human soul, in its essence, is universal. Or, in other words, the signification of what the word human soul points to is a kind of universal consciousness in which the objects of mathematics and all kinds of universal objects of reason appear. So then, to summarize, from propositions about how our happiness is to be attained through the robust use of reason, there is a kind of trajectory, an argumentative trajectory toward a conclusion about what reason or what the human soul is. That is, since reason is of the nature of consciousness, considering its etymology, and reason is the essence of a human being, then consciousness is the essence of a human being. And consciousness would seem to have to be the substratum for all objects of perception. The last conclusion would seem to be needing some more explanation, but this is how it seems. This then is a reflection on the first part of Part 7 of Book 10 of the Nichomachean Ethics by Aristotle.